Forgotten Mists of Bridlewood, Chapter 12, Exploration. Sprout slowly made his way down the stairs into the basement of the house he and Misty Brightdawn were continuing to explore. According to Sunset, it was the residence of one Flash Sentry and his descendants, nearly all of whom who had been royal guards for the Crystal Empire. Apparently, she had known a mirror version of this Flash Sentry in the dimension she had come from. Even after Sunset had shown him pictures from the other world and her bipedal friends, he still couldn't quite wrap his mind around other forms of ponies he knew. Or even himself. Was there another Sprout Cloverleaf out there in the multiverse somewhere? Who could say, really? He knew Sunset had come back to Equestria because she had encountered, well, herself, and the both of them in one place for long wouldn't be good for the stability of the whole fabric of existence stuff. So it was probably best that the dimension hopping was over, at least for now. He finished coming down the steps onto a tiled crystal floor, and to his surprise, it wasn't as cold as he was expecting. He was able to remove his hood and mask, leaving his radio in his ear, as he made his way over to the storage shelves.
Alright, I'm down in the basement, Misty. Everything good up there?
He asked through his headset.
So far, a pretty normal-looking bedroom.
Misty replied.
Keeping an eye out for things that look good in a museum, and Headmare Sunset wants spell books.
Even if it doesn't look good right now, the restorers in Zephyr Heights do amazing work, so just remember that. Even if it might look like junk right now, keep it in mind.
Sprout said. He knew that the vast majority of the space in their new trailer would be for books from the immense library across the street. But once that was cleared out, they were going to have much more freedom to look around these houses for things to keep and restore. He had to admit, once there was no more room in the museums across Equestria, he wouldn't mind a set of antique pony armor on display in the corner of his bedroom. Sunset was slowly making her way down the shelves of the Crystal Castle Library. While it was considerably smaller than the main library out on the main road, it was still sizable. While Sunny wanted to keep an eye out for history books, Sunset was still adamant on tracking down spell books, and keeping the more dangerous ones out of reach for now. Luckily, of the 24 spell books she had found on the shelves so far, they had all been Class 3 and below, which meant that the librarians of the Empire had been wisely keeping them out of public spaces. Or at the least, that was her hope. She heard the library doors open and shut, before galloping hooves came down the main concourse.
Sunset!
She heard Sunny say as the galloping got closer. The unicorn stopped where she was in her current aisle, turned, and went out to the table in the center, where she had been stacking spellbooks, and where the Earth Pony could easily see her.
Hey there, Sunny, what's up? Did you find something?
Sunset asked. The Earthmare nodded.
You could say that.
She said, opening the left flap of her saddlebags and pulled out a book.
It's the personal journal of Princess Flurryheart,
Sunny said, opening the bound book to where a bookmark had been placed, which looked brand new.
Reading journals now, are we?
Sunset asked, not sure how she felt about invading the privacy of princesses, even those who were long gone.
Well, I figured the sentry would be of interest because she mentions you.
Sunny answered. Yeah, that would be enough to get the unicorn's attention, as Sunny offered the open journal to her. She turned it and read the hoof writing silently.
For years, Twilight didn't stop fretting over what could have possibly happened to Sunset Shimmer, and once again, I should be incredibly careful in what I wish for. It's been quite a few years since Lester Dawn left her tutelage, and a while ago Twilight told me about another talented unicorn she's encountered trying out for the school. According to her, she's the most gifted pyromancer she has ever encountered. Twilight told me there's no such thing as bad students, just bad teachers, but I have an incredibly hard time accepting that. I remember the stories I was told about Sunset Shimmer, and luckily for us, her problems became apparent before being offered an alicorn form. Princess Twilight told me that she had turned over a new leaf in her new home, but she vanished with absolutely no trace when she was supposed to come back to Equestria. It worried Twilight sick for years, and it took all of her friends to keep her focused enough to run the country. It took her so long to begin to consider selecting another gifted pony from the school as a protege. But then when Lester did something quite unexpected, she turned down the offer of an alicorn form. Twilight, of course, respected her decision, and so the student and teacher went their separate ways. Then a short time later came the pyromancer, Opaline Arcana. She was everything Twilight could have wanted when it came to a protege. Raw ability, ambitious, and driven to succeed. Perhaps it was due to the fact that Lester turned her offer down that Twilight seemed to put Opaline on the fast track to alicornhood. Problem is, once that happened, things changed. Opaline changed and revealed a side of herself that she had kept hidden quite convincingly. Twilight is wrong. There are bad students, and sometimes those students find redemption like Sunset had. But there are good students that go bad at the drop of a bit. There are bad students that become so skilled at creating a facade of innocence that they even can fool princesses. Perhaps Opaline is all of these and more. If she gets her way, I fear for Equestria's future. I hope Twilight knows what she's doing.
Chapter 13. The Past. The Journal of Princess Florryheart of the Crystal Empire gave Sunset hope that it would fill in some of the gaps between her last correspondence with Twilight, and her arrival through the mirror into the current generation. But as it turned out, Princess Florryheart didn't get out all that much.
This doesn't tell us a whole lot more than we already know. She goes weeks, months, years in between entries.
Sunset commented as she flipped through the pages, making mental notes of the dates of the entries.
Guess ruling up here must have been pretty mundane.
Even back in Twilight's days with the rail network getting all the way up here, yeah, the Empire was pretty isolated from the rest of Equestria.
Sunny responded, as she was going down another row of books as Sunset sat and flipped through the princess's journal.
But ponies like Opaline are exactly what we need to be on the lookout for, Sunny. Megalomaniacs who think they're better than every pony else, be it by birthright or whatever higher power they believe in.
Sunset was hoping that Sprout was keeping an eye on Misty. She still didn't know nearly enough to make any sort of accusations, and getting the younger mare to open up to her would likely take time. Time that they possibly didn't have.
Alright, this one's almost ready to go.
She heard Zip call. I'll go let Onyx know, Jasper called, after helping the Pegasus put the lid on the large container and latch it. Sunset closed the journal and dropped it into her saddlebags, coming back out into the main concourse to see Zip push the full container down the floor.
Need any help, Zip?
Sunset asked.
Nope,
The Pegasus replied, after briefly turning to the unicorn.
Cancer Logic designed these to be easy to move fully loaded, with low friction casters.
Regardless, Sunset followed the crate out and helped move it down the stairs to the Scouticus, and assisted in getting it loaded into the back.
Miss Shimmer!
Sunset heard, turning to see Misty coming down out of the front door of the residence she and Sprout had been going through.
Misty?
Sunset asked, going halfway across the street to meet the unicorn, seeing that she had a book in her hooves.
I remember what you said about specific spellbooks, and I found this one on a bookshelf in there.
Misty said, holding out the book to Sunset. The head mare looked down at it and accepted it, immediately turning it sideways to look at the bottom of the binding. 5. Sunset took a breath.
You got a good eye, Misty. Great job, and thank you. Let me know if you find anything else.
Sunset told her. Misty nodded with a smile before turning to head back inside the residence, as the head mare silently watched, before looking down at the spell tome once more. Sigils, seals, and shields. Incantations for masters of combative and defensive magic. She flipped through the first few pages, quickly determining that these were high-level spells where the timing was much more important and the consequences much heavier. And thus the plot and puzzle thickened, the pieces shifting. If Misty were here at the behest of some pony else, they weren't interested in high-level spells if she was bringing them right to her. Artifacts, perhaps, but those were equally dangerous, especially if you didn't know what you had. But they were also considerably more rare. If Florryheart's final letter was accurate about the entire city being evacuated, did they take the artifacts with them, or were they still here buried in the snow? If they were, they would be just as hard to get to as Misty's motivations. Not sure what Misty's trying to pull. I don't know if she genuinely wants to help them out, or if maybe there's something in the background happening. We'll see. Anywho, let's get on to our devious donators. Top donators: Jessie Smith, Zar630, BadassWaffle, Only One Thing, Ceru Orion, and Caladis. Matchfic, Jock, Rayden, Runescythe, Will, Twinkie, Luigi, Chancellor, Crust, Big Smoke, Murder Princess, LILmighty, Solar Symphony, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.